They don't shout, they don't argue, they just twist reality while smiling to your face. You never see it coming, until you're isolated, doubting yourself, and begging for validation you never needed. What if you could flip the script? What if you could use their own tricks to outmaneuver them without ever raising your voice? The most dangerous person is the one who knows how manipulators think. You've met them. The ones who turn your kindness into a weapon, who twist facts, shift blame, and make you question your own sanity. They thrive in your emotional reactions, and they disappear the moment you demand clarity. But here's the truth. You don't need to yell to fight back. You need strategy, precision, power that comes from silence, the kind of psychological leverage Machiavelli would admire. This is curiosity to wisdom, where we decode human nature and arm you with real psychological power. If you've ever been disrespected, manipulated, or underestimated, this video is your blueprint. Watch until the end, and I'll show you exactly how to track. Manipulators thrive because most people are excessively reactive, a weakness rooted in human behavior's predictability. This is the core flaw Niccolò Machiavelli, the Renaissance master of political and psychological insight, dissects with precision. Society conditions us to equate goodness with emotional openness, viewing vulnerability as a sign of authenticity and strength. We are taught to express feelings freely, as if transparency were the ultimate courage. Yet, as Machiavelli observed in The Prince, he who deceives will always find those who allow themselves to be deceived. This reveals a harsh truth. Those who display emotions openly provide manipulators a blueprint for exploitation, their transparency mapping their desires and fears. Machiavelli's psychology does not advocate cruelty or malice, but champions strategic detachment as a shield against exploitation. By mastering emotional restraint, you gain control, not through aggression, but through the disciplined power of refusal. Choosing not to react impulsively to provocations starves manipulators of the emotional fuel they need. Cultivating an unreadable demeanor transforms you into a fortress, impervious to their tactics. This approach is not about suppressing emotions, but wielding them intentionally, revealing only what serves your purpose and concealing what could be weaponized. Machiavelli's genius lies in recognizing that true power stems from what you withhold, not what you project. Your strength emerges not in actions taken, but in influences you refuse to let sway you. By embracing this detachment, you disrupt the manipulator's playbook, forcing them to falter against your unpredictability. In a world where trust is exploited and sincerity weaponized, Machiavelli's teachings offer a timeless lesson. Invincibility begins with being untouchable. This demands vigilance, self-awareness, and an understanding of human nature's darker tendencies. You must study both adversaries and yourself, recognizing when impulses might betray you. This psychological discipline protects against manipulation and positions you to navigate power dynamics with clarity. Often misunderstood as cynical, Machiavelli's philosophy is a pragmatic guide to thriving where deception lurks. To be unbreakable is to be elusive, moving with quiet confidence that disarms those seeking control. Your power lies in choosing when to engage, when to withdraw, and when silence speaks louder than words. Let's dissect the essence of power through a lens Niccolò Machiavelli would approve: the art of strategic silence. This tactic, rooted in the psychological acumen of the Renaissance master, is a cornerstone of invulnerability in the face of manipulation. When confronted with pressure, the instinct to explain or justify oneself is almost universal, yet it is a trap that exposes vulnerability. Machiavelli's philosophy, steeped in an acute understanding of human nature, warns against succumbing to such impulses. Never explain yourself under pressure. Never react emotionally when manipulators bait you with provocations designed to unravel your composure. They thrive on chaos, feeding on the drama they provoke to destabilize and control. Your silence, however, becomes an impenetrable fortress, a shield that denies them the emotional leverage they seek. By refusing to engage, you render their tactics futile, forcing them into a state of discomfort and uncertainty. They cannot manipulate what they cannot decipher, and your unreadable demeanor becomes your first line of defense. Think of strategic silence as emotional judo. Their aggression, hurled with calculated intent, meets nothing but air, leaving them off balance and exposed. This is not mere passivity, but a deliberate act of power, aligning with Machiavelli's maxim that true control lies in what you withhold, not what you reveal. By maintaining silence, you dictate the terms of the interaction, compelling others to reveal their intentions while you remain enigmatic. This tactic frustrates their efforts as their schemes falter against your refusal to play their game. In The Prince, Machiavelli emphasizes the importance of appearing unpredictable to maintain authority, and silence is a potent tool in this arsenal. It is a calculated withdrawal that signals strength, not weakness, forcing adversaries to second-guess their approach. To master strategic silence requires discipline, self-awareness, and an understanding of the psychological undercurrents at play. You must resist the urge to fill the void with explanations or emotional outbursts, recognizing that every word you withhold strengthens your position. In a world where manipulators exploit openness, this tactic is your first victory, a subtle yet profound assertion of control. By embracing strategic silence, you embody Machiavelli's ideal of the untouchable strategist, navigating power dynamics with clarity and precision. Your win begins not with what you say, but with what you refuse to let be drawn from you, ensuring their tactics collapse before they can even take root. The second tactic, control the frame, is a psychological cornerstone drawn from Niccolò Machiavelli's incisive understanding of power dynamics. Every interaction carries an underlying frame, a narrative structure that dictates how the exchange unfolds. Manipulators, as Machiavelli's philosophy implies, excel at subtly imposing their frame, trapping others within their narrative to control perceptions and outcomes. They reframe situations with deft precision, making you feel guilty for questioning their motives or responsible for their actions, thus shifting the balance of power in their favor. Their tactics rely on emotional manipulation, sowing doubt or obligation to keep you reactive and off balance. To counter this, you must seize control of the frame, a strategy aligned with Machiavelli's emphasis on maintaining authority through calculated moves. Instead of succumbing to their narrative, respond with calm, direct questions. Why would you say that? Or, can you clarify what you meant? These queries, delivered with unyielding composure, force manipulators to expose their logic, unraveling their carefully constructed illusions. This approach is not about emotional outbursts or falling for their bait. It's about applying controlled, surgical pressure that dismantles their narrative without giving them the reaction they crave. By questioning their premises, you shift the frame back to neutral ground, compelling them to justify their actions or intentions. This aligns with Machiavelli's insight in The Prince that power lies in directing the course of events, not merely reacting to them. Controlling the frame requires vigilance and emotional discipline, as you must resist the urge to be drawn into their emotional traps. Each question you pose is a calculated step, exposing cracks in their facade while keeping your own intentions opaque. This tactic turns their manipulacy against them, as their attempts to deflect or deceive falter under scrutiny. In a world where manipulators exploit emotional vulnerabilities, controlling the frame is a declaration of psychological sovereignty. You dictate the terms, forcing them to operate within your structure rather than theirs. This approach demands self-awareness, as you must recognize when a frame is being imposed and respond with precision rather than impulse. Machiavelli's philosophy, often seen as ruthless, is fundamentally pragmatic here, teaching that power is maintained by those who shape the narrative. By mastering this tactic, you embody the untouchable strategist, navigating interactions with clarity and foresight. The manipulator's illusion collapses as you assert control, not through confrontation, but through the quiet strength of redirecting the conversation on your terms. Your power lies in making them answer to you, ensuring their frame crumbles while yours stands firm. The tactic of distance and scarcity, rooted in Niccolò Machiavelli's keen psychological insights, is a powerful defense against manipulators who rely on proximity to exert influence. As Machiavelli's philosophy in The Prince suggests, control is often maintained not by constant engagement, but by strategic withdrawal, a principle that applies acutely to psychological warfare. Manipulators thrive on close access to your mind, using it as a canvas to twist emotions, plant doubts, and steer your decisions. Their power depends on your availability, feeding off your immediate responses and emotional accessibility to maintain their grip. To counter this, you must master the art of creating emotional and physical distance, a tactic that disrupts their control and shifts the balance in your favor. By reducing your availability, delaying responses, limiting interactions, or stepping back from their orbit, you induce a subtle panic in manipulators who rely on constant access to predict and influence your behavior. This aligns with Machiavelli's understanding that power is amplified by scarcity, as presence diminishes value, while absence heightens desire and influence. When you remove manipulators from the center of your world, you starve their ability to dictate your emotional state, forcing them to confront their own diminishing relevance. Power, in this sense, comes not from being ever present, but from being missed, a calculated absence that makes your attention a coveted resource. This tactic requires discipline, as the instinct to engage or respond immediately can be strong, especially when manipulators provoke with urgency or emotional bait. Yet, as Machiavelli would counsel, restraint is your strength. By stepping back, you create space for clarity, allowing you to see their tactics for what they are, calculated ploys to keep you tethered. Distance fosters perspective, ailing the patterns of manipulation that proximity obscures. This clarity restores your power, enabling you to act from a place of intention rather than reaction. In a world where manipulators exploit accessibility, distance and scarcity is a declaration of autonomy, echoing Machiavelli's advice to remain elusive to maintain authority. You must cultivate self-awareness to recognize when proximity serves their agenda, resisting the urge to fill every silence or meet every demand. By making yourself scarce, you force manipulators to overextend, exposing their weaknesses as they scramble to regain control. Their grip falters when they cannot reach you, and your power grows in the space you create. This approach, often mistaken for aloofness, is a pragmatic strategy for reclaiming control, ensuring that you dictate the terms of engagement. Ultimately, your strength lies in choosing when to be present and when to withdraw, letting distance become your shield and scarcity your sword. If this is hitting hard, it's because it's real. Hit that subscribe button and join curiosity to wisdom. We turn emotional chaos into psychological clarity. Share this with someone who needs to reclaim their power. And now, let's go even deeper. The power of unpredictability, a tactic deeply aligned with Niccolò Machiavelli's psychological mastery, is a formidable weapon against manipulators who rely on the predictability of human behavior. In The Prince, Machiavelli underscores the importance of appearing elusive to maintain power, a principle that thrives in the art of being unreadable. Manipulators count on patterns, your predictable reactions, scripted responses, and consistent routines, using them as a blueprint to anticipate and control your actions. When you embrace unpredictability, you dismantle their strategy, rendering their carefully laid plans obsolete. By varying your tone, delaying responses, or altering your routines, you introduce an element of uncertainty that disrupts their ability to manipulate you. Imagine a chessboard where every move you make defies their expectations. If they cannot predict your next step, they cannot plan their own, leaving them scrambling to adapt. This shift transforms you from a target into a question mark, an enigma that unsettles their confidence and unravels their strategy. Unpredictability, in Machiavelli's framework, is not about chaos or erratic behavior, but about calculated variation that keeps you one step ahead. It requires discipline to resist falling into familiar patterns, especially when manipulators provoke you with emotional triggers designed to elicit a predictable response. By remaining unreadable, you become uncatchable, embodying the untouchable strategist Machiavelli admired. This tactic demands self-awareness and a keen understanding of how others perceive you, allowing you to strategically alter your behavior to keep adversaries off balance. For instance, a sudden shift in tone, from warm to neutral, or an unexpected pause in communication can force manipulators to second-guess their approach, exposing weaknesses in their tactics. In a world where control hinges on anticipation, your unpredictability becomes a shield, protecting you from being boxed into their narrative. Machiavelli's genius lies in recognizing that power is maintained not just through action, but through the deliberate disruption of others' expectations. By cultivating this air of uncertainty, you force manipulators to operate in a state of doubt, where their usual ploys, guilt, flattery, or provocation lose their potency. This approach is not about randomness, but about intentional flexibility, choosing when and how to deviate from the expected to maintain the upper hand. The power of unpredictability aligns with Machiavelli's advice to remain elusive, ensuring that your adversaries are perpetually reacting to you rather than dictating your moves. Your strength lies in becoming the variable they cannot solve, the uncertainty that undermines their control. Ultimately, by embracing unpredictability, you assert your autonomy, navigating power dynamics with the cunning and foresight of a true Machiavellian strategist. To wield power effectively, as Niccolò Machiavelli's psychological insights suggest, you must not merely understand these tactics, but internalize them, making them second nature in navigating human interactions. Imagine a scenario where you're engaged in a conversation with someone who subtly undermines you, their words laced with veiled barbs designed to provoke a reaction. Instead of falling into their trap, you deploy strategic silence, a tactic rooted in Machiavelli's emphasis on withholding to gain control. By refusing to react, you deny them the emotional response they seek, creating an uneasy void that shifts the dynamic in your favor. Their discomfort grows as they face your unyielding calm, a fortress they cannot breach. You then follow with control the frame, asking a calm, incisive question like, "What exactly did you mean by that?" This forces them to justify their subtle aggression, exposing the fragility of their position as they stumble over their words. Their carefully constructed narrative begins to crack under the weight of your composed scrutiny, aligning with Machiavelli's counsel in The Prince to dictate the terms of engagement. Then, you amplify your power by employing distance and scarcity, withdrawing from contact for a few days, perhaps delaying responses or limiting your availability. This calculated absence, a hallmark of Machiavellian strategy, disrupts their expectation of access, making them reach out more desperately, perhaps even offering apologies or adjusting their behavior to regain your attention. This is not luck, but psychological warfare, won with the quiet weapons of discipline and restraint. Internalizing these tactics requires more than intellectual grasp. It demands emotional discipline and an acute awareness of human nature's predictable vulnerabilities, as Machiavelli so keenly observed. You must train yourself to recognize, you're being baited, and resist the impulse to react impulsively, instead choosing silence or strategic questioning to maintain control. Distance, too, must be deliberate, not petulant, used to create clarity and reassert your autonomy. In a world where manipulators exploit emotional accessibility, these tactics, strategic silence, control the frame, and distance and scarcity, form a psychological arsenal that renders you untouchable. By mastering them, you embody Machiavelli's ideal of the elusive strategist, navigating power dynamics with precision and foresight. This approach transforms interactions from reactive battles into calculated victories, where your adversaries adjust to you, not the other way around. Your power lies in wielding these silent, subtle weapons, ensuring that every move you make or choose not to make reinforces your dominance in the psychological chess game. This transformation, rooted in Niccolò Machiavelli's psychological wisdom, is not driven by revenge, but by liberation, a deliberate shedding of the old self that sought validation through pleasing others, explaining oneself, or craving understanding. The former you, tethered to the need for external approval, allowed others to define your worth, leaving you vulnerable to manipulation. In contrast, the new you, forged through Machiavellian principles, is emotionally sovereign, strategically aware, and armed with a mind impervious to others' attempts to twist it. As Machiavelli's insights in The Prince suggest, true power lies not in overt displays of strength, but in cultivating an elusive presence that defies control. Manipulators, who thrive on predictability and emotional accessibility, do not fear brute force or loud defiance. They fear unpredictability, the quiet observer who sees through their tactics without revealing their own intentions. They fear those who listen more than they speak, absorbing details and discerning patterns while offering little in return. This transformation aligns with Machiavelli's view of human nature as a battleground of motives, where the astute strategist prevails by remaining unreadable. By embracing emotional sovereignty, you free yourself from the compulsion to react or justify, instead observing with a clarity that unnerves those who seek to manipulate. This is not about malice, but about reclaiming your autonomy, ensuring that your worth is defined by your own terms, not theirs. The one who knows their own triggers, knows the manipulator's playbook, and knows when to withhold, holds the true power. This liberation requires self-discipline and an acute awareness of how others exploit emotional openness. You must train yourself to pause, to assess, and to act only when it serves your purpose, echoing Machiavelli's counsel to and in control through calculated restraint. In a world where manipulators prey on predictability, your unpredictability becomes a shield, your silence a weapon, and your awareness a fortress. They falter when faced with someone who observes their every move while revealing nothing, forcing them to second-guess their strategies. This transformation is a rejection of the reactive self, a conscious choice to embody the untouchable strategist Machiavelli championed. By becoming the one who knows, you navigate interactions with a quiet confidence that disarms adversaries. Your power lies not in what you say or do, but in what you withhold, ensuring that manipulators, confronted with your enigmatic presence, lose their grip. This is liberation, not just from their control, but from the version of yourself that once allowed it. This approach, grounded in Niccolò Machiavelli's psychological acumen, is not about descending into manipulation, but about constructing a robust defense, an intellectual armor that renders you untouchable by those who seek to control you. It's a critical distinction. You're not adopting the manipulator's deceitful tactics, but fortifying yourself against them, embodying the strategic resilience Machiavelli championed. As he famously wrote in The Prince, "It is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both." This fear, however, does not stem from violence or aggression, as some misinterpret, but from the quiet power of composure, the sharpness of perception, and the unyielding confidence of someone who sees through the psychological games others play and navigates them with superior skill. Manipulators rely on exploiting emotional vulnerabilities, expecting reactions they can predict and twist to their advantage. By cultivating this defensive armor, you deny them that leverage, remaining composed when they provoke, observant when they scheme, and unpredictable when they expect compliance. This aligns with Machiavelli's insight that true power lies in controlling the dynamics of an interaction, not through overt force, but through strategic restraint and keen awareness. Your composure becomes a shield, deflecting their attempts to unsettle you, while your perception allows you to discern their motives, seeing the chessboard of their intentions with clarity. This intellectual armor is built through discipline, requiring you to resist the urge to react impulsively or seek approval, instead choosing silence, calculated questions, or deliberate absence to maintain the upper hand. The quiet confidence you project, rooted in knowing their tactics and refusing to play their game, instills a subtle fear in manipulators, not of physical harm, but of your ability to outmaneuver them. They falter when faced with someone who cannot be read, manipulated, or cornered. This defense is not about mimicking their deceit, but about transcending it, embodying the untouchable strategist Machiavelli envisioned. You become a figure who navigates power dynamics with precision, using observation and restraint as your weapons. In a world where manipulators prey on emotional openness, your armor, forged from composure and strategic awareness, ensures you remain beyond their reach. This is not about becoming like them, but about rising above, playing the game better by refusing to play it on their terms. Your power lies in your ability to see through their strategies, respond with calculated intent, and maintain an enigmatic presence that keeps them guessing, ensuring you emerge not just unscathed, but sovereign. So here's your final empowering decision. Never be an open book to someone who reads only to rip out your pages. Do this. Observe, detach, and outsmart. Intelligent kindness, emotional control, strategic distance, unreadable presence. These are your weapons. And remember, the greatest victory is the one achieved without a single confrontation. His laws. Subscribe now to Curiosity to Wisdom and turn your awareness into your power.